The Flash is a horrible show. That is a fact. Season 1 was great, Season 2 good, but not as much as Season 1, which remains the best season of the show. Season 3 is a fucking train wreck. We all know that. Season 4 starts out really well, but ends up being a catastrophic disaster. Season 5 is kinda lame. There are good episodes in general, but then there are episodes where you ask yourself if the writers smoke weed or the weed smokes them. But then again, this is a TV show about The Flash. I love The Flash as a character, so here's my rewrite of The Flash Season 3. By the way, my name is Don Heidens. I make videos like this all the time. If you love this video after watching it, please like it and subscribe. And make sure you follow me on Snapchat, on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook, at Don Heidens. Now that that's all out of the way, let us begin. Season 1. This was a good season, so I wouldn't really change anything about it. Yeah, I think it's really, really good. Season 2. Again, this was another good season, so I wouldn't change a single thing about it. So I'm going to start changing this after Season 3. Well, starting from Season 3. Season 3. Now, this is the season where everything kind of went downhill for the show. This season was a train wreck. I spent most of the season waiting for something to happen. The story was boring, the villain was boring, everything was just dull. We spent the whole season watching the team trying to prevent something that we all know was never gonna happen. I mean, come on. We all know that Iris was never going to die. And here is my rewrite of the whole season. We are in Flashpoint, where Barry does not have his powers. He does not have his memories, he does not have anything related to the real timeline. He's just an ordinary forensic scientist at CCPD. In this episode, we explore his life in Flashpoint. Not much happens. He and Iris know each other, but they are not close. Cisco is a billionaire who owns Ramon Industries, just like in the original episode. And another thing is that there are metahumans. Yes, there are metahumans in this timeline, but there is no Flash. The main heroes we see in this timeline are Vibe and Ice Maiden. Vibe is Cisco Ramon, as we already know him, and Ice Maiden is anonymous. We don't know her true identity. And this episode ends with Barry remembering the death of his mother by Reverse Flash during dinner with them, and he goes to his room shocked. With these memories of the death of his mother, Barry is confused and doesn't know what to do. It's like he remembers something and then it is gone. This keeps happening throughout the episode until he remembers that Vibe is actually Cisco Ramon and he pays him a visit. The fact that he knows Cisco's secret shocks Cisco and forces him to listen to Barry and try to help him figure out how he knows his secret and what is going on with him and his memories. Cisco cannot figure out what is going on with Barry, and he ends up vibing him, where he sees himself getting killed by Harrison Wells. And then he sees an unknown speedster killing Iris, with Barry screaming her name in a Flash suit. This tells him that Barry must be a speedster, but after running tests on him, Barry Allen is not a speedster. Barry tells him everything he knows about Iris, and Cisco suspects that what he saw was a flash of the future, as we already know that that's one of his powers. This forces them to confront Iris and let her know that she might be in danger. Iris ignores them and doesn't believe what they say. She's just a worker at CC Jealous, by the way. And we can feel a spark between her and Barry. Also, in this episode, we meet Wally West. And we discover that he is a speedster and he's not really interested in being a hero. Wally forces them to leave Iris alone, believing that if she is in trouble, he will protect her on his own. At the end of the episode, we see a speedster popping out of a portal. He has white lightning, just like in Cisco's Vibe. Episode 5, Savitar. The speedster with white lightning, nicknamed Savitar, calls out the Flash. With the Flash not there in his timeline, Savitar causes trouble and damage in the city. He will not stop until he finds the Flash, and Vibe and Ice Maiden try to stop him, but he's too much for them, and Ice Maiden gets badly injured. This is when they realize Ice Maiden is actually Caitlin Snow, and Cisco is also injured, and the two of them won't be able to fight Savitar for a while. Things get interesting at the end when Eobard Thorne shows up in Ramon Industries without his powers and tells Barry that he screwed up big time. He shows up in his Reverse Flash suit. Episode 6, some say I'm the reverse. Barry freaks out seeing Thorn in his suit. He remembers the flash memory of him killing his mother. Thorn explains everything to them about the timeline Barry screwed up and who Savitar is. Apparently, Savitar is a speedster from the future. His name is Clifford DeVoe. DeVoe is a mad scientist who gets his speed in 2020 and becomes the nemesis of Nora Allen, Access, in 2040. He believes since Savitar always failed to defeat Nora, he came back in time to kill her parents before they gave birth to her. But why seek the Flash? Because he knows that in this time period, the Flash is related to Nora's mother, since Nora in the future somehow revealed that information to him. So, finding the Flash means finding Nora's mother. But they don't trust Thorn, even though he filled in the gaps. Barry's flashy memories are from the real timeline, and Thorn suggests that they must fix the timeline before those flash memories are gone forever. With Savitar causing too much damage and killing too many people, Wally decides he must give him what he wants. He becomes the Flash. He wears the exact same suit that Barry did. Thorn tells them everything they will do will fail, and the only thing to do is to fix the timeline. Cisco locks him up and considers him a madman. Wally fails to stop Savitar, and Savitar surprisingly seeks Iris. Now things are beginning to make sense. Iris dying in Cisco's vision is actually Savitar coming back in time to kill her. So Savitar is back in time to kill Iris, and now that makes sense. They realize Thorn is right about some things. Savitar kidnaps Wally, unmasks him, and reveals his identity to the public. Then he calls out Iris. If Iris doesn't show up to him within 24 hours, Wally dies. This forces the team to put Joe under their safety. Iris wants to give herself up, but they won't let her. Barry goes to Thorn for help, which is hard for him. Thorn tells him the only way to save everyone is to become the Flash and fix the timeline. Episode 8, 24 hours. With the 24 hours counting down, the team has no plan, but then Barry brings up his plan. The only way to remember everything is by getting access to the Speed Force. That is the reason Thorn remembers everything. He still has the Speed Force in him, but he just can't access it. So Barry must recreate every condition required to make him a speedster, and hence become the Flash again. They try to do it, but then burn most of his body after a catastrophic failure. He is in bed, in a bad condition. Thorn calculates what might have gone wrong while the team works on their plan. With Cisco now better, he goes to rescue Wally, and Joe follows him. But then Cisco fails miserably again, and also Savitar nearly kills Joe, just before Cisco vibes them back to Ramon Industries. Thorn figures out the problem and corrects it, but then the team refuses to let him put Barry in a machine again. He uses a tranquilizer gas on them, and puts Barry in the machine against his will, but it looks bad. And Thorn thinks he failed again, with Barry lying down on the machine near dead. Everyone attacks Thorn, but suddenly Barry wakes up, vibrating really fast. The thing worked, and he has his speed. But for him to remember everything, he has to run. He does, and every memory of the previous timeline comes back to him. He goes to where he put his suit, and when he came to this timeline, and gets it. He goes to save Wally, brings him home safely. However, he leads Savitar against something. However, he leads Savitar straight to Iris. Savitar manages to kill Joe right in front of them, but they manage to lock him up in the pipeline. Episode 9, Flashing Out. The team has a problem when Black Flash hunts down Savitar. At the same time, Barry tries to reform Savitar by finding the present-time Clifford DeVoe, who is one of the greatest guys out there. So DeVoe has no clue what is going on, but all is revealed when Black Flash attacks Barry while he's with younger DeVoe, and Barry runs with him thinking Black Flash is after him, and he runs him to the Ramon Industries. DeVoe meets his Savitar self, and he doesn't believe that his future self would become an evil speedster. The team decides that Savitar deserves a second chance, and they manage to protect him from Black Flash. But at the end of the episode, Savitar escapes and takes Iris with him. Episode 10, Undead. Now that Savitar has Iris, the team struggles to find her. DeVoe so badly wants to stop himself. Thorn suggests the only way to stop him is to fix the timeline. just like he has been suggesting. He tells them there is no other way, but they ignore him. He knows this because this is what he was supposed to do to Barry, kill him as a child so he never becomes the Flash, but instead it happens to Barry and Iris, his future daughter. Savitar sees Barry Allen. He wants to kill them both just to be sure. Barry plans, Barry plans to give himself up. The team formulates a plan to stop Savitar. Wally is back up on his feet, and same with Ice Maiden and Vibe. Thorn warns Barry that the fact that he changed the timeline is the cause of all of this. He assures him that he will fail, and when it comes to time, messing with the timeline is dangerous. Barry saved his mother, but the new timeline will turn out to be worse than the previous one, since he is bound to lose more than he did in the original timeline. Barry takes him lightly, and they go ahead with the plan. Barry saves Iris, but sadly Wally dies. Savitar kills Joe as well, but then DeVoe kills himself, hoping that it would cause a paradox and hence stopping Savitar. The plan works, but there's a problem. Since he has a few minutes until the paradox reaches him, he decides he will not die without leaving something for the world to remember him with. Instead of targeting Iris, he realizes there's no point, and he targets the whole city. He runs to Argus, where he steals a fusion bomb. Not sure what they call it, but the one in Flashpoint episode. He runs to the city center and activates it. The bomb explodes, but in flash time, Barry realizes that there's no way of stopping the bomb. So he runs the team out of the city with the bomb while the bomb explodes, flattening the entire Central City and everyone in it. Just like that, Central City and everyone in it is gone. Barry is in disbelief. Savitar is not done yet. He figures out that the particle accelerator that Ramon Industries was building is actually still active. He sabotages it and activates it, knowing very well that it will cause the black hole on the surface of the Earth. Barry fails to stop him from happening, and the black hole actually forms, sucking the Earth slowly. There's about 13 hours left until the entire planet is sucked into the black hole. At this point, there's nothing any of them can do, but Thorn tells Barry, the person who destroyed the Earth is not Savitar, it is Barry himself when he changed the timeline. After a few seconds of regretting what he did, watching the Earth being swallowed up, Barry decides he will go back in time to stop himself from changing the timeline. But Barry is slightly injured and he can't harness enough speed force to run back in time. Thorn assists him by running with him, accessing the speed force that is left inside of him. Barry becomes fast enough to go back in time and stop himself from saving his mother. This fixes things, and we are back to the moment when Barry left in Season 2's finale. Barry walks into the house and finds Iris and Wally with Joe in the sitting room. At the very end, Barry realizes something while in Star Labs. There's a ship coming into the Earth's atmosphere. He runs to the crash site where he discovers aliens. So yeah, that's when the crossover begins in episode 11 and in episode 12. No, episode 11. That's the crossover episode. So I'm not really going to talk much about this one. But I'm going to say in episode 11, Barry realizes that the timeline is different, but he just doesn't know how much. So I'm not going to talk about episode 11 much because it is a crossover episode. And yeah, the crossover doesn't matter that much. Episode 12. Complications. With Barry now having less distractions, he begins to figure out just how much things have changed. Cisco's brother is dead, Caitlin's powers have manifested, Diggle has a son instead of a daughter. The Flash is being questioned after Zoom ruined his reputation by framing him for destroying Varsity Box. This is too much for Barry. And when he tries to run back in time to fix things again, Jay Garrick stops him and teaches him about the dangers of time travel. Barry is captured by rebels who figured out how to trap a speedster and have been planning this for months. The plan is to make the Flash pay for the damage he caused while fighting Zoom. Team Flash saves him. At the very end, we see Barry reading about a speedster who has been causing trouble in the city for a while now. Since he changed the timeline, he knows nothing about him. And Cisco finds him reading the storyline. Cisco goes, "Don't worry, this speedster won't get away with this forever, blah blah blah." And he somehow mentions that this speedster's name is Savitar, which actually shocks Barry Allen because he knows that Savitar is a speedster from Flashpoint. Episode 13, Trajectory Again. Trajectory returns in this new timeline. She's never died. and Team Flash figured out Zoom's identity another way. She seeks Team Flash's help, and she's dying from the V9. Cisco and Caitlin discover that she has a few days left to die. They try as hard as they can to help her, but only a speedster can help her. She needs the Speed Force in her blood to save her, but there is not enough time to save her, really. Knowing that there is no hope for her, Trajectory decides to make up for her mistakes by helping solve the Flash's reputation problem in the city. She manages to do that and ends up dying in Caitlin's arms. Episode 14, I Am Savitar. Caitlin gets kidnapped and the team tries to find her. Barry starts suspecting that it is Savitar. The team is distracted by Cisco's out-of-control vibes as he keeps vibing himself into unpredictable locations, and his breaches are causing damage to the city. They must help him gain control over them by finishing his vibe gear, which will help him control them. After helping him, Cisco finds Caitlin's location, and they go rescue her. But when they get there, they are attacked by Savitar, who beats the crap out of them. Barry chases him around, and when they finally stop, Savitar tells him about how he ruined his life. Barry thinks it is Clifford DeVoe from Flashpoint. Now, episode 15 will be called Gorilla City, and it will be exactly the same as the original episode, where Barry goes to Earth 2 to save Harry from Gorilla Grodd and Gorilla City, what. And then episode 16 will be called Attack on Central City, and things would happen just like in the original episode, but slightly different. And for example, one difference is that this is where we see Gypsy for the first time, and we don't see her ever again before this episode. So this is the first time we see Gypsy on the show. Episode 17, Killer Frost. Caitlin accidentally destroys the Cortex in Star Labs with her frosty powers and nearly kills Wally and Iris. This freaks her out and she runs out. The team tries to find her, but they realize that she's after a woman called Tracy, who she believes has knowledge and ability to fix her and get rid of her powers. With the woman unwilling to help since Caitlin is rude as hell, she kidnaps her and tries to force her to use her latest invention to cure her. But things go wrong when her powers are amplified, her brain and her hair becoming white, her eyes turning blue, skin turning pale, and everything she touches freezes. Barry finally locates her, and when he tries to convince her to stop, Caitlin tells him that he's selfish and only thinks about himself. She tells him everything that happened is because the team only focuses on how Barry feels. Like what Barry wants, what Barry does, and they never think about what Barry's happiness costs others. She feels alone because no one ever talks to her about how she feels. Ronnie died, Fake J Zoom betrayed her, and in this timeline her mother died and no one considered how Caitlin feels. Instead, everyone was there for Cisco when Dante died. Everyone was there for the West family when Iris' mother died. And everyone was there when Barry's father was killed by Zoom. But no one was there for Caitlin when all these things happened to her. She's also afraid that they will see her as a monster because she shares her powers with Earth 2 Killer Frost, whom they all know was evil. And she feels lonely all the time. She just wants her powers to go away. She also mentions that she cannot control her powers, so she doesn't want to end up killing someone again. Barry asks her what she means by killing someone again, and she reveals that she's the one who killed her mother, and she did that by hugging her and froze her to death without even knowing it. She freezes Barry and gets away, and Cisco comes to get him. Back in Star Labs, Barry confuses Caitlin. Barry confesses that Caitlin is right. Everything that happened to them is all his fault. He confesses that he changed the timeline and he can never change it back to the original one. He tells them everything. Dante was alive in the original timeline, Caitlin's mom was alive and Caitlin was not a male human, and Savitar is a speedster from Flashpoint. The team remains in shock. And on the other hand, Caitlin is somewhere in the city alone when Savitar comes to her for help. He reveals his true identity to her, but we don't see it. And she goes with him. Episode 18, Who is Savitar? After Barry tells the team that Clifford DeVoe is Savitar in the previous episode, the team captures Clifford DeVoe and locks him up in the pipeline. But after DeVoe's meta-human test proves that he is not a speedster, it raises the question, who is Savitar? It seems due to the changes in the timeline, Savitar's identity also changed, so Barry tries by all means to find out who he is. However, he fails to figure it out. On the other hand, Caitlin is seen attacking a science lab to steal a piece of tech. They stop her. They stop her and keep the tech in the Star Labs. But since she knows Star Labs, she managed to break in and take it. It is revealed that she's working with Savitar, and Savitar promised her that the machine they're building will get rid of her powers and also help Savitar with his unknown agenda. Episode 19, I Know Who You Are. While Caitlin is busy forcing Tracy to build the machine for her and stealing tech for the machine, Savitar kidnaps Barry, Iris, and Joe. Mind you, ever since Barry told the team about Flashpoint, they have been mad at him since. Except Iris and Joe. So it is up to Cisco, Harry, and Wally to find them and rescue them, but Savitar doesn't make it easy for them. Also, Savitar plays a game with Barry, putting him in situations that seem familiar. He starts with Joe, where he puts them in a situation where Joe jumps in front of Iris and takes a frost blast from Caitlin in order to save her, putting him in a coma. It looks too familiar, and then Barry realizes this is similar to what happened to Earth 2 Joe on Earth 2 in Season 2. There's no one with medical expertise in Star Labs at the moment, and this becomes a problem because Joe's life is hanging by a thread. Cisco manages to save Barry and Iris, but that was all just a distraction to give Tracy time to build the machine. Barry finally figures out everything from what Savitar said and did. He confronts Savitar, and it is revealed that Savitar is Barry Allen, and Barry thinks it is a version of him from the future. Episode 20, The Flash of Savitar. The team knows Savitar is future Barry Allen, so they think the only way to stop him is to make sure Barry never becomes Savitar. So Barry travels to the future and tries to figure out what turned him into Savitar, but he gets nothing. This confuses him because in the future it appears Barry still remains the Flash. So which version of Barry becomes Savitar? He has no idea. But something is weird in the future. No one ever talked about Iris. No one even mentions her name, until Joe mentions that Iris would have been proud of the team. This makes Barry ask about her. He learns that Iris was killed by Savitar back in 2017, our current time period. This is when Barry finally figures it out. When Cisco vibed Iris' death in Flashpoint, he actually saw Iris' death in this new timeline, not in Flashpoint. So in Flashpoint, Iris was never going to die, but she was supposed to die in this timeline. This is the version of Savitar that gets to kill Iris. This is the version of Savitar that Cisco vibed. Barry goes back to the present and tells them. And Barry also figures out that he never becomes Savitar in the future, and that Savitar is actually Earth 2 Barry Allen. But why? They don't know. So they must now try to prevent Iris' death. Episode 21, Welcome Back to Earth 2. Barry goes to Earth 2 to find Savitar. Savitar captures him and locks him up in his lair, where he finds Caitlin working on her machine. On the other hand, the Team Flash tries to figure out what happens in the future, the night Iris died, so as to find a way of saving her. So Cisco vibes into the future, and they recreate everything in a 3D render program. They will use this to run multiple simulations to find a way of saving Iris. Barry manages to escape the lair, and Caitlin tries to stop him. Cisco finally finds a way of saving Iris. Of all the 8,000 or more possibilities in the simulation prediction, only one will work, and that is for Barry to become fast enough to get to Iris before Savitar stabs her through the heart. So Barry must increase his speed from 6,000 kilometers per hour to 7,400 kilometers per hour in less than a week, which is nearly impossible. In this episode, we also learned that Savitar got his powers from Velocity 9. Episode 22, The Death of Iris West. The team tries to find other ways of saving Iris in a holographic render. Barry just isn't fast enough to save Iris, so they are willing to try an alternative. Take Iris somewhere safe, and Barry thinks of taking her into the Speed Force, but the team can't allow that since they don't know what that would do to Iris. So the plan changes to taking Iris to Earth 2, knowing that Savitar wouldn't have expected. Savitar comes to Star Labs and attacks, and he gives a speech of what happened. Apparently, when Barry came to Earth 2 in Season 2, he brought him and his Iris into their business with Zoom, hence making them Zoom's target. Then they just decided to close the bridge to Earth 2 and leave Earth 2 at Zoom's mercy. Zoom conquered Earth 2 and ended up finding them. Then he killed his parents. So he lost Joe, he lost his parents, and he lost them to Zoom. Then Zoom killed Iris right in front of them. So Earth 2, Barry Allen goes through all of this and puts the blame on the Flash, because if the Flash didn't bring them into this, none of this could have happened. Even Zoom mentioned that he's doing this to make them pay for working with the Flash. Savitar somehow knows how to trigger Cisco's vibes, so he triggers a vibe and somehow sends himself into the vibe, hence getting Iris's location, since Cisco is the only one who knew where Iris is. Savitar goes to get Iris and comes back. He brings her to Star Labs and Barry tries to fight him. So he drags Iris outside to the spot that they saw in the vibe. So Barry starts begging Savitar not to kill Iris. Savitar tells him he wants the Flash to feel exactly what he felt when Zoom killed Iris in front of him. Mind you, my version of Savitar does not wear a metal costume. He wears a blue version of the Flash suit, but the lightning is pointing opposite direction. It's like the blue version of Zoom's suit. So at this moment, the mask is off. Savitar does manage to kill Iris right in front of Barry. She dies with that message she left to Barry in the original episode. Seeing all of this, Caitlin has second thoughts on this machine she's building. Episode 23, Selfless Act. Knowing that Savitar is too fast for Barry to stop, Team Flash comes up with a different idea of how to defeat him, but all their plans sound like they're going to fail since they have different flaws. Barry is so pissed off at Savitar and wants to go back in time to change things, so Cisco prevents him from doing this by locking him up in the pipeline. Harry creates a piece of tech that neutralizes Barry's quantum resonance, or whatever they call it, I don't know. The one that Cisco named in the future episode in season 3, where he stopped him from traveling through time. You know, the thing that allows him to punch a hole in space-time. So Cisco finds a way of neutralizing it with this technology so that Barry can never travel through time. So it is meant to stop Barry from traveling through time without his knowledge, and they embed it into all his suits, except the one he's currently wearing. The team makes a plan to stop Savitar, but knowing their plan will fail, Caitlin shows up and gives them a better idea. Trap Savitar in the Speed Force prison. Caitlin noticed that Tracy has been secretly building the Speed Force bazooka, a gun that creates a loop in the Speed Force, trapping someone in that loop for all eternity. All they have to do is use it on Savitar, and only Barry can do it. So they set Barry free and hold a proper funeral for Iris, secretly. Cisco embeds the anti-time travel attack in Barry's suit. After the funeral, they put the plan in motion. They start by rescuing Tracy and bring with them the Speed Force bazooka, and Cisco and Harry help her finish it. Tracy tells them everything that Caitlin told them is true. She was actually building the Speed Force bazooka meant to create a loop in the space-time continuum inside the Speed Force. Tracy tells them that Caitlin thought they were building a machine to neutralize her powers, but that is actually a gravity bomb. I am bad at naming stuff. So the bomb will compress matter around it into a very small space until it becomes dense enough to become a black hole. Barry tells them that this is exactly what Savitar did in Flashpoint, and he succeeded. He also mentions that there is no way to reverse it once he does it. But thankfully, he has something he didn't have in Flashpoint, and that is Harry. Just as they are talking, Savitar activates the weapon, and they must come up with a solution before Central City is completely destroyed, or worse, the entire world. Harry suggests that they blow up the dense core using a powerful lightning bolt, but Barry's lightning is not enough, hence, since the core is absorbing mass away too fast. So he tells Caitlin to slow down the absorption by cooling it down. And she does so, and Flash lightning would be enough. They do that and it works. The core is destroyed. Savitar angrily tries to kill the Flash, but Caitlin managed to freeze his legs, giving Cisco a chance to shatter his other leg using his vibrational blast, preventing him from running. Tracy fires the Speed Force bazooka at him, and the blast hits him. When Barry throws him into the Speed Force, it creates a loop, and Barry manages to escape before the loop traps him and Savitar inside, so it traps only Savitar inside the loop. Yes, so after that, Savitar is defeated. Barry moves back with Joe and Wally, and everyone misses Iris already. So Barry is blaming himself for everything. If he didn't change the timeline, Iris will still be alive. At the very end of the episode, we learn that Barry created a loop in the Speed Force. He drained its energy and made it unstable, and now it needs the energy restored to stabilize. Otherwise, the Speed Force is destroyed. So it requires a Speedster to walk into the Speed Force and stay there until it stabilizes. Barry goes into the Speed Force and it becomes stable. Cisco remains the hero that Central City needs. In a post-credit scene, we see Wally in his room, looking at Iris's photos in his phone. Out of anger, he throws things around and just runs. It shocks him when he runs at super speed and ends up in Keystone City. He has no idea what is happening, and then he finally remembers. When Barry opened a portal in one place to trap Savitar, it also opened a portal in Star Labs, the spot where they got Barry out of the Speed Force in Season 2. And Wally was right there. The portal opened and the Speed Force energy that was drained during Savitar being trapped in the loop leaked through this portal, and Wally now has it within himself, hence becoming a speedster. So this is my version of Season 3 of the show. And it is not much and it might suck to many of you, but this is my version of the show Season 3. I will be doing Season 4 rewrite next week, so please, if you love this rewrite or the video itself, just hit the like button, subscribe on YouTube, follow on social media, and let me know what you think in the comments down below. As always, I appreciate you taking your time to read my rewrite. Turn on the notifications and get notified when I post the next video. Thank you very much. I will see you next time.